Hi there, welcome back. So in today's video we're going to use this lovely large oval shaped tray mould and the gorgeous medium-sized octopus, which you may have seen us use in a previous video. If not, check out our playlist. Also going to try and introduce some, if not all, of these lovely glitters that you're supposed to add to paint, made by Valspar, and also these gorgeous twinkle tints for pastel shades from Jules at Resin Jules. So without further ado, you've seen us do this technique before, and if you haven't, all we're going to do is apply the tints and the glitter to the mould using a dry paintbrush. Just a regular paintbrush. But look at these colours. I mean, this is gorgeous. I do only end up using 2 of the colours from this, and although they're not really obvious in the end product, I know I've used them and I know they are beautiful. But here I am, you can see this is a time lapse of me applying the different coloured twinkle tints, the 2, and they just coat the surface of the mould slightly. There's a hint of colour there, look at that, beautiful, love the way it reflects, and just trying to burnish it on, so really rubbing them onto that mould, still being delicate but being firm, using that little brush there. So now adding some of the silver, and this is for ultra fine glitter for adding into emulsion paint, and then also some of the beautiful deep gold colour that we have there. Now I didn't use the rose coloured, so here we go. We're also using a bit more of the twinkle pastel tints, just applying it all on there and thinking, let's just go for it, let's just literally go for it. Now, I was a bit concerned that maybe it wasn't going to colour the mould very much at all. And yes, a lot of the glitter didn't stick to the mould, which, you know, is absolutely fine. But it does, I think, add to the overall appearance of the end product, which you'll have seen in the thumbnail, of course. But just going round with this rather larger, more firmer brush. These are actually makeup brushes. Going all around the edges, making sure you get all around the edge of the mould there, of the tray, and then all over the surface. And it gives a bit of a sheen in places. It's beautiful. Love that brush. So, as you can see, there's quite the collection of glitter. So I've got a piece of, this is just baking paper. Baking sheet paper. I've turned the mould upside down and I'm just going to give it a good pat there. There we go. And it would have got all the excess glitter out of the mould now into that baking paper, and I've poured it into a little, just a little plastic box that we've got. So did you see the sheen and shimmer and the shine of the glitters? Look at that. Absolutely coming alive. Little pops of colour and sparkle. Now, Mr. Octopus, we were gonna give him the same treatment as well. But before I do that, sorry, these clips are slightly out, this is slightly out of order. I decided, look, we'd recently had some chameleon powders, the Let's Resin chameleon powders delivered. So I decided to apply some of the green gold of that as well. I thought, why not? You know, let's just throw everything at it. And then did exactly the same process with the octopus. He's gorgeous. Now look at this. Now the gold really took very, very well to this mould. I love the effects of this. If you haven't seen our other octopus video, why not check out our playlist? We made a rainbow style one with chrome powders, again by Let's Resin, a big one, and this smaller one here as well. And I'm pleased to say the smaller one sold. What you've seen being made in today's video is also available for sale via the link in the description box, which will take you to our website, or click on or scan the QR code. So again, just did exactly the same process with the octopus mould there, turned it upside down, gave it a good tap. There you go. So I'm still a little bit concerned that I can see bits of the mould. So I'm going to go in, and I'm just going in with the chameleon powder and going in and around, same colour that I used on the tray, just making sure I'm coating every single surface of this mould. Can you see the hints of gold there? I love it. Love this colour, one of my favourites. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. Along with that deep, I love the chrome powders. Oh, I'm just obsessed. I keep saying I love everything, but chrome powders, absolutely obsessed. An ongoing love affair with those. And these chameleon powders are gorgeous. I'm not so keen on the flakes because we have so much static, they're very fly away. But can you see that now? The hints of the gold and the green. This is the tray. Wow, did you see that? Beautiful shimmer. Beautiful. Now, I'd already made up some resin, 1:1 mixing ratio. It's made by Tea Expert, and it had some of the gold glitter for paint by Valspar already added. Now that's the leftover glitter that I've just added in now, that I'm showing you, that was just dispersing across the surface of the resin. That was the leftover glitter from the moulds. Now, this was okay, but I wanted it to be opaque. I didn't want to use black to back these, and I know they say, oh, with chameleon powders and so on you should use black. I wanted to use a more neutral colour, so all I've done is add some white pigment, resin pigment, giving it a good stir, and you still see all those flecks and pops of gold, but it's a neutral colour. I didn't want to do another black based octopus. So I've just poured a small amount into the octopus there and gave it a good squidge to encourage any air bubbles to come up to the surface and disperse. And then just slowly pour it in. Now, quite a few shots on clips of this video have been sped up because, you know, I did take my time doing it, and you don't need to sit and watch me pouring resin for 5 or 6 minutes. Just going around all the edges of the mould with a micro brush tool. This is great and invaluable tools to have these. Just again helps to make sure that resin gets to all the little details that it needs to in your mould, and that you don't get any little air pockets or bubbles trapped. So I put that to one side and spritzed it with some isopropyl alcohol just to make sure it got rid of any other little bubbles that appear on the surface, and left it to cure. Now also on the top left there we've got a skull mould. You didn't see me pouring resin in there, but we also have that one. That has had little bits of leftover resin poured into it, and I poured a bit more, just making sure that every last little bit of those edges is completely filled with resin, and then just pouring the rest of it out into the mould. Now resin, as I've said, it's self-leveling usually, so do make sure that you're working on a dead flat and level surface, otherwise you'll get an uneven cure, and that's no good then. That's not very good. So just waiting now. There we go. Looks like we've got enough. I did actually end up having enough because, although you won't see me do it, I do just go around with a larger mixing spatula that we've got and get every last little bit out of that jug, poured it into this mould, and it had literally had just enough by a milliliter or so. So again, doing exactly the same treatment to this mould as I did with the octopus, going around the edge of it with a micro brush, get rid of a few bubbles there as well. Spritzed it with some isopropyl alcohol and left it to cure. Now, you know me, I'm impatient. Couldn't leave it 24 hours, only left it about 18, and before I demold. Now it is cured, but it is bendy, so of course please, you know, leave it in to cure till it's completely solid. But yeah, for the purposes of this video, I decided to demold early, she says, lol. Right, so look at that. I do love the colour that it's gone on the underneath part. It looks like really creamy coloured marble, doesn't it? Very shiny, very glossy. Sorry about the shadow there that you've got hanging over. That would be my camera. We've got a little bit of a raised edge, which we will deal with. And we deal with that by using this, which is a deburring tool. Now, I like using this, but take a little bit off at a time. That would be my advice. By all means, wait until it's completely cured. In other words, leave it another 12 hours or so, or 6 hours, until it's firmer, and then use this tool if you prefer. But I actually find this quite easy to use now once it's at this stage, and then collect up the little bits of shavings of resin and pop them in the bin. So this is the octopus, and he's got a bit of overspill, so I need to deal with that. It's very, very thin though. It's not a thick coating, so I might be able to just remove it with my hands. If not, I'll go in and use my little pair of sharp scissors that I've got. I don't really want to use an emery board or nail file on this, just in case it scratches the beautiful gold surface that you're going to see. So just pulling the mould away from the octopus rather than trying to pull the octopus out of the mould, because as you can see there, look, his tentacles are rather bendy still. So just go careful around those end bits because they're a bit more fragile. And then once you've done that, you should be able to just pull the mould off of your project, completely off of the octopus in one go. There we go, pulling the mould away carefully. You'll notice I'm wearing black nitrile gloves. You must make sure that you protect yourself when using resin, particularly in its liquid form. So wear the black nitrile gloves or the nitrile gloves. These have got little raised bumps on them. That's because they're called boa grips gloves. Everything that we've used where possible we will put a link for in the description box. If we can't put a link, then we might suggest an alternative. Otherwise, yeah, we'll do the best that we can for you. There we go. So I'm literally just managing to brush off a lot of the overpour, and then I went in with my scissors and just trimmed it a bit more. Look at the sheen. Oh my goodness. Now, just trying to decide at this point where I was going to put the octopus, because I did want to put him onto the tray. So you could put him on the left hand side and have him so he's partially raised up on the border of the tray, or you can put him so he's completely in it, or you could put it at that end, or you could even just, well, you could put him in the middle if you wanted to. There we go. So you could have him as a divider, like a natural divider. So you could have a bottle of hand lotion on one side, a bottle of soap on the other, you know. Now he needs, in my opinion, a bit more decoration, and yes, I'm going to do that as well. Now, here's the little bonus clip. This is the skull. Now, we've poured leftover resin from other projects into this, and then I topped him up with a bit of the resin that I'd been using for the octopus and the tray. And here he is. Easy to demold that one. There we go. As I was just saying about safety, you must wear a respirator mask when you're using resin and work in a well-ventilated area. I can't stress the importance of that. I really can't. It's, you know, you do need to protect yourself. Once it's cured, it's absolutely fine. Now, the extra bit of decoration. UV resin, love it. And some iridescent white powder, or glitter, not powder, glitter. And we're going to literally add the UV resin. So it's UV resin here. Sorry, lost train of thought there. UV resin. Added in some of the white iridescent, added in some of the silver glitter we'd already used, and then some of the gold, and just gave it a good mix there. Now, UV light coming up, so it's a warning. All we're going to do is going to just add little bits of this mix of UV resin and glitter to the octopus here, like this, using this tool, and then cure it with the UV light as we go. Now do it in thin layers and then build up if you want more definition in the different places. But yes, I mean, you could leave him completely blank if you wanted to. I mean, if you want a gold octopus, maybe on a navy blue tray, that was solid pigment coloured navy blue tray, so opaque, in other words, is what I'm trying to say here. And then maybe have a bit of gold leaf and then have a gold octopus. That would look fantastic. I mean, there are so many different ways and things that you could do with this. The world is your oyster, pardon the pun. But here we go. Can you see that there? Now that, I know, doesn't look overly pretty when you shine a UV light on it, but you can see where I've put the UV resin and the glitter mix, and on the end product he does look rather special, but I'm biased because I've made him. Now he does need a little bit of something extra again, because we've lost a little bit of his detail, I think, of his character. So using some of these decor pens, and all I'm doing there is just pressing the nib in and out and in and out to get a little pool of this lovely silver chrome sort of mirror shine paint. and then using a rather stiff but fine tipped paintbrush to apply that chrome paint. Now look at that. And for me, he's just suddenly come alive almost, like, hello, yes, I'm here. And I'm adding a little bit more decoration to him, to his legs, and then a little bit on like that. He's almost like he's been dusted with little bits of silver and diamond dust. There we go. Look at me getting all artistic and poetic. But that's what I think. So just a little bit more, I think. There we go. Now, I like this effect. I know it may not be to everybody's taste, but as I said, you know, it's up to you what you decide to do. You can leave it plain. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. You don't have to have the metallic colours. You could use more of your opaque pigment, perhaps, in your resin, and just pour the resin straight in. You could colour his eyes in afterwards with some paint, acrylic paint, or markers, and just do them in black. You could even maybe get the, I was going to say googly eyes, you know, the eyes that move, stick those over the top just for a bit of fun. But here he is. Now I'm just trying to decide where I'm going to put him on the tray. And there we are. I made the decision. The other thing you could do, of course, is you could go around the edges of the tray with the silver pen if you wanted. Now, I just showed you quickly there we've got a big bag of a mixture of small sized shells. Now, I still thought he needed something. Now, yes, I get it. You could have just said, Laura, stop now. Sometimes less is more, but sometimes more is more. And more of a, not a minimalist look to this tray. There's more of a maximalist look. And all I'm doing here, I've decided where I'm going to put the octopus, and I'm applying something called Star Bond, which is an activator glue. Now, if you use the glue that you're happy to use, you could use some regular epoxy resin and just pop that on the bottom. Make sure that you press it down firmly. Obviously, UV resin to adhere him to the tray is not going to be any good, because you won't be able to get UV light through it to cure the resin. So I've placed him down. I'm just clearing up a little bit of spill. I got a little spill of some glue there. Apologies again for the shadow there. That is the camera that you can see. That's how shiny the surface of the tray was. And I'm just gently pressing down the octopus, applying pressure, making sure he's completely adhering to the surface of the tray. And he looks rather super. Look at this. So just going in for a little bit of a close-up there. Really rather like him. He looks very almost like precious gold. So just trying to decide at this point where I'm going to put these shells. As I said, I've got various different sizes. They're not all going to be lying flat either. I want to give it a bit of texture too. I've got one running away there on the side of the screen. I wanted to give it a bit of texture. I'm all about colour and texture. So this is a time lapse of me applying them using UV resin. Now, because there are gaps and the shells are a little bit see-through, the UV resin I found worked better than the glue. When this is also then me trying to use the glue just wouldn't stick. Then it would stick, then it stuck to everything else apart from what it was supposed to. So decided in the end to stick with the UV resin. So there you can see we've got the different size shells. They all seem to be the same type of shell, which was absolutely fine. I mean, obviously you don't have to buy shells to do this. If you want to have a go at making your own, you can. And then you can have little silver shells. You can have all kinds of different coloured shells. You know, your colour themes you could use for this. There are so many different ways in which you could do this project. So poured some resin in there, some of the UV resin, and then just adding in these shells. So making sure they're not all going the same way. We've got a bit of contrast, we've got a bit of texture, we've got a nice little bit of like rib patterning going on the shells, and some sort of coordinating colours there. Creams and beige and so on, which are not too, they don't stand out too much because I don't want anything really detracting from the octopus. So just decided to fill some in the back there as well. So look at that. Absolutely love that. Now, done and dusted, all good. Leave it to completely finish curing. Leave it for another 24 hours or so. And then what we would normally do is put some of the little plastic sticker bung feet things, I can't remember what they're called, apologies, on the bottom, so that when you put it down onto this whatever surface it is, it doesn't mark the surface that you're putting it on. Now, though, I wanted to see whether or not these beautiful pastel twinkle tints from Jules at Resin Jules would show up on any of the surface of the shells. Now, the UV resin I've used is slightly wet still, so I was hoping the pastel tints here, the twinkle tints, would sink in and reflect, but in the end I decided to mix up some more of the pastel twinkle tint into some UV resin. You see what I mean here? Can you see it? It's a slight bluish tone to it there. Can you see it in amongst the shells? Almost gives the appearance of there's still a little bit of water maybe there, that perhaps this octopus is in some sort of rock pool in the sea, and you know, there's a bit of water mixing in with the shells, you know. Imagination. Use your imagination. But I decided in the end that that wasn't quite going to work. I was going to end up having to coat it with UV resin to get the twinkle tint to just stay where it is and not just completely come out. So I thought, why not? Let's just put some more UV resin in one of these little plastic pots, add some more of the twinkle tint, the beautiful twinkle tint, there we are, and which you're going to see me do any moment now, there we go, and then mix it up. I probably put too much in there, but never mind. Mixed it up thoroughly, and then I decided to use the same brush that I've been using to brush it onto the piece, to use this then and put it onto the piece itself. So just decided then to brush it on. You can use a silicone tool, you can use your coffee stir stick, you can use whatever you feel most comfortable using. So you can see there, I'm just popping it on. And now this bit's been sped up. I don't usually do it this quickly. There we go. Opted to use that brush. Did clean my brush thoroughly afterwards. Otherwise, you know, you're going to ruin your brush. And then you have to pop it in the bin. But yeah, cleaned it thoroughly with a wipe, and it was absolutely fine to use again. So just going over the piece there, using it up that with the UV resin with the lovely twinkle tint, and then I did just very lightly brush it over the surface of the rest of the tray as well. There we go. If you've joined us today, thank you for joining us. Give us a like rating, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, why not subscribe? We usually upload twice a week currently. It will be going back to 3 times a week very soon. So on a Friday and a Sunday at 5 PM UK time. We've got but we will be increasing back to the Wednesday one as well very, very soon. That will also be at 5 PM UK time. Usually, as I said, how to make videos to give you a bit of inspiration. Sometimes we do collaborations as well. Here are the 2 end shots, the beauty shots. Look at that. Look at how it's glistening. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But then again, I'm biased. That's my opinion. If you joined us in the live chat, I hope you enjoyed it today, taking part in our little conversations and so on. If you've got any comments or you want to ask us any questions, you can always direct message us. And we'll respond as soon as we can. As I said, links in the description for everything we've used and for sale for this item on our website. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.